Welcome to Rugby Lives, everyone. I'm very, very privileged to have two proper greats of Scottish rugby, Gavin Hastings and Lee Cockburn.
My rugby start was curtailed a wee bit by getting run over in the school playground by one of my teachers. His name was, funnily enough, Killer Gilray.
I'm a big burly lass, and I think there should be opportunities for burly lasses to do what burly lasses want to do. So I started playing rugby at 21, and I've never looked back. And we had to ask the universities if we could play with them because there was no one for us to play against. And then we moved to Accies. But they still shut the big blue curtain on us, their first 15, and the women, oh, here they come, the women, shut that curtain.
The Grand Slam match against England, 17th of March 1990. We walked out. The best thing about that whole memory of it was the walk, and it was just that calmness about the team.
He's moaning about being in an economy at the back of a 747. We were in the back of a Luton van, no seats, no seat belts to go and play England down in London.
You cannot be serious.
100%. We got a rowing boat to get to Spain to get to our World Cup.
Welcome to Rugby Lives, everyone. This is brought to you in partnership with Vodafone, who are working with Scottish Rugby on the clubs.connected programme. Today we're at Hamilton. And I'm very, very privileged to have two proper greats of Scottish Rugby, Gavin Hastings and Lee Cockburn. And you do a lot of prep for every interview, and I think obviously I spoke to Lee and Gavin ahead of today's chat, and normally you get a few notes and you get a few ideas. Lee has sent me a 10-page document. I think I said hello, and then I got 10 pages. But in fairness, I've read this story so many times.
I'm a writer.
There's so many elements to it, and every time I read it, I find something else. So this is going to be a thoroughly entertaining podcast. I'm very excited. First of all, we're obviously at a great grassroots rugby clear in Hamilton. Tell me about your guys' first start. Gavin, have you actually been here before as a player at all?
Not as a player, but I was here filming a little sketch show with an old school friend of mine, Jack Docherty, who plays the Chief and in Scott Squad. And I was just looking at my phone just now and showing someone the idiocy of the Chief trying to kick the ball between the uprights, and it was very amusing. And so I have happy memories of my time here a couple of years ago, and it's obviously great to be here with Vodafone and doing a wee bit of coaching with the kids outside, and it's been brilliant. So I hope the kids have all enjoyed it as much as everyone else.
Whereabouts did you first play? Was it minis, juniors? I mean, that wasn't really a thing back in the day.
No, it wasn't. You're absolutely right. And I remember, and this is an absolutely true story, and I've told this story many times before, but I didn't start playing rugby till I was 10 years of age. And my rugby start was curtailed a wee bit by getting run over in the school playground by one of my teachers playing football. And his name was, funnily enough, Killer Gilray. And Malcolm Gilray was his name. And I was playing football, and he drove his car in, and it caught my leg, one of these old wraparound bumpers, and it kind of pulled a bit of my leg off. And so my rugby career was delayed. Killer Gilray was the coach of our rugby team in primary 6 at the time. And after 4 training sessions, he made me captain of the team. Do you think he was guilty at all? So I don't think Killer Gilray's alive anymore, and it put me on a good path. We played 7 games that year, and we won every game, and it put me on a good path to future success, if you like. And I captained every team I ever played for after that. So I've got a lot to thank Killer Gilray for, and my legs healed up quite well since then.
Did you follow through with your brother playing before you? Or?
Well, I'm one of 4 boys in my family. I have an older brother, Graham, who we sent off to Australia when he was about 23 or 4. But he'd already played for Scottish schoolboys. He'd already played for Scotland under 21. So he sort of set the tone. And he went off and lived in Victoria and in Melbourne and played for Victoria State against a number of New Zealand provincial touring sides. So he would always say that he was the best rugby player, but of course that was not the case. I was the best.
And what about you, Lee? Because you were late, because you were other sports first, weren't you? You were like Olympic kind of level at other things. This just says here, literally
it says
it definitely
Youth
says Olympic
Olympics,
level.
Youth Olympics when I was 15, I swam and I represented Edinburgh because I got the time for the Scotland team, but I didn't get the tracksuit because the other girl had the time and she was already in the team. I understand it now because I got my tracksuit for Scotland. I was a bit later than you, Gav. I was 21 when I started playing rugby because girls weren't allowed to play rugby. I had to play hockey. I was a goalie, so I smashed everyone that came anywhere near the goal posts. It's just the way it was. And I had to do food and nutrition and secretarial at school because you weren't allowed to do woodwork and metalwork. And I'm a big burly lass. And I think there should be opportunities for burly lasses to do what burly lasses want to do. So I started playing rugby at 21 and I've never looked back. 29 years of rugby, a knee replacement. He's only got half a knee replacement, so I beat him. And he probably threw it under the car to just hurt his knee more. I kicked the ball when I was 3 weeks before I was 50 and went, ooh, ow. And then I fell on my knee, I went, ow. And then I went and got an x-ray and went, that's what's broken, bone, and bone. And now the other one's the same. But who cares? I wouldn't change a single second of playing rugby. It was the best time and I'm so privileged to have been the right place at the right time and a big burly lass. And they went, oh, you can come and play. I went, okay.
So what was it like, because you went to Liberton, that was your first
team? We
were the
first women's team, Liberton ladies, and we had to ask the universities if we could play with them because there was no one for us to play against. And they brought us in. And then it was Boroughmuir. But Boroughmuir wouldn't let us use their name or their colours, so we had to be pink and black and be Edinburgh women. And then we moved to Accies, Edinburgh Accies, so we're nice blue and white tubes. But they still shut the big blue curtain on us, their first 15. And the women, oh, here they come, the women, shut that curtain. And then we were sort of kept out of their space. And then we moved to Royal High and then semi-human after that. We were actually accepted. We played really well. We won lots of things back then because we were a scary bunch of ladies. You know, like Gavin, but in women's form. And you know, I look at these beautiful girls that play now and they're fit, they're athletic, they're magnificently skilled. They are. And I went and gave the shirts out just before the Wales game. They just lost to no more. And then they had their 7-streak win. I said, you're brilliant. I said, you play for that shirt and you're magnificent. And you lose a wee bit and you seem okay with losing. I said, that just try winning. It just feels so much better. And I swear to God, 7 games later, they hadn't lost one. And it's like... And they said some rude words in their team talk. I went, I don't use that one that begins with that letter.
How did you get spotted, Gavin? When did someone first say to you, do you know what, you might be able to do something in this game?
It's an interesting question. I guess I was always lucky to be picked for Edinburgh under 15s and then under 16s and I guess Edinburgh schoolboys, but you never really thought about it because you just enjoyed playing, and that's all I did. I just enjoyed playing with my mates, and you never really knew if you were good enough at all. I remember going to Murrayfield for the very first time in 1971, and there's a Welshman, John Taylor, who played in the flank for Wales, number 7, and he kicked this goal in a winning conversion after PC Brown had actually missed a kick in front of the post. Imagine missing a kick in front of the post. I mean, God, you would never be able to live that down. No, I've never been able to live that down. But, you know, you just, listen, rugby was all about fun. I played amateur rugby my whole life. It was, you tried to play with a smile on your face. It was playing with your mates. It was having a few beers afterwards. It was just fun. And then you obviously became better at it. You trained harder. And, you know, you just take it step by step. So that's what it was for me. And, you know, many people will know I've got a son playing. Adam plays for Glasgow, and the first question I ask him, or I tell him to go out and enjoy yourself. Did you have fun? Because to me, it doesn't matter if you're like the kids out here at Hamilton Rugby Club or you're playing top level rugby, the highest level. Play with your smile on the face. And the guy that does that better than anybody is a chap called Finn Russell. Finn Russell is unbelievable. One of the best rugby players on the planet, and he plays with a smile on his face. And it's a brilliant recipe for success, I think. And we watched the Bath game last night, and what a game, and what a player Finn Russell is. A magnificent ambassador for Scottish rugby, and I love watching him playing rugby.
When did you must have been a moment when that, even if it wasn't professional, technically in terms of salary, when that professionalism started to feel, kicked in, like there was a game that was under pressure, because it's nice being able to do, but there must have been one where you think, okay, this is a bit more.
So I guess I was at college not far from here, Paisley Tech, and I was playing for Watsonians back in Edinburgh. So, most people will know Paisley here, and you don't want to spend too much time in Paisley, right? And so I was back in Edinburgh quite a lot for training and whatnot. So posh Edinburgh, you're right. But and I loved it. And then one of my tutors at Paisley said, have you ever thought of going to Cambridge University? And I said, you're having a laugh, aren't you? And obviously he was having a laugh. But then he sowed this seed. And I used to remember watching the varsity match on television, and the blue and white stripes of Cambridge against the dark blue of Oxford. And I thought, you know what, quite fancy that. So I went down there. I was doing land economics in Paisley Tech towards chartered surveying. And I did this course in land economy in Cambridge. And I probably, it's fair to say, spent more time training and playing rugby than I did studying for land economy. But honestly, the best 2 years of my life. And I grew up, we played all the top sides in England and Wales, and we trained every day in the daylight. And, that was just, we were fit. And we used to win against all these teams in the last 15 or 20 minutes because we were fitter than them. And we had a great, great team, guys. Rob Andrew is a great friend of mine. Played alongside Rob, played alongside other rugby internationals, and we just had fun. And I've talked about it already, but when you pursue something with as much enthusiasm, I suppose, and train hard, you want to have fun. It has to be enjoyable. And I think my whole rugby career was about having fun and playing. As I say, try to play with a smile on your face, because we didn't get paid for it. So there's got to be compensation in other ways. And travel in those days was great. And getting off work for 6 or 7 weeks and, being in New Zealand or Australia or whatever, it was just fun. Yeah. Magic.
The varsity thing was quite interesting because, back then, this was like England trials as well, because you had, for instance, you had Barnes against Rob Andrew. They played against each other, and that was the two England fly halves. And we had Victor Boog on the podcast, and he was saying that he got called up he was going nowhere, got put in on a PPE or something for a year, and then that he knew he was going to play for England because he'd got into the varsity match. It was massive, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in those days. And obviously, again, I played with other internationals. Ian Morrison played in the flank for Scotland, Kevin Sims and Fran Clough in the centre for England, Mark Bailey on the wing for England. And it was fun, and we trained, we were fit, and we were fitter than all the teams that we played against. So we had a bit of success as well. And it was just, you look back there, and I've still, my pals from Cambridge, still got great pals from there, and happy days. But it just puts you on that trajectory to play rugby at the highest level and realise that fitness plays a key in all of that, and allows you to just do more things on the field and accomplish more goals.
Lee, what about you? How did you've obviously come from other sports, you've got a good background in terms of being athletic. When was the point where you thought, because it's interesting, because obviously Gavin is going into a men's rugby game where there's established goals, if you like, whereas this game is still building. Tell me what that was like, because the women game is literally developing as your, internationals aren't really a thing, early doors. Tell me about that side.
Well, we were the first ever international team in 1993, and a lot of folk thought it was a big, massive joke. So we went and did all the the flyers up the town and everything. And we eventually got 5,000 people to watch our game at Rayburn Place.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and in 1993, we won 10-0 against Ireland. And in my playing days, in the 16 years I played for Scotland, we didn't lose against Ireland. Then they dropped me, Gavin, and then they lost against Ireland.
That's nonsense.
And just to give Lee credit, Lee got 77 caps, but also your record against all of the sides, France included, you won more than you lost against all of those guys, and you beat England twice, and you won a Grand Slam. That's
Yes,
incredible.
yes,
Round of
well-
applause for that, guys.
Yeah.
But tell me about those early days, because it wasn't, 5,000 sounds
The
great.
early days, you mentioned salary. What's that?
Yeah.
We've never been paid, ever. I didn't go to the Hong Kong Sevens because I didn't have the £850 to go. I just saw a picture on my Facebook the other day of the girls having a great time and I went, couldn't afford to go. But anyway, we had to buy our shirts, we had to pay for our travel. And then, do you know what? It was the love of the game. I didn't care. But when I got back, you said you got your 6 or 7 weeks off work. I got back and I'd had the night shift weekend off. So I had to work the next night shift weekend on my days off and then work the next week to pay the days back to the work. Whereas the men who played rugby got the time off. Now, I'm not bitter and twisted. But back then, it's just women's rugby. It's just women's rugby. But if you look since 1993 till now, what's happened now for the women, it's just phenomenal. And it's a long time coming and they're brilliant. I love watching and I think, come on. And I really want them to beat England. And just, if they can... I mean, it's 1999 since the last time, and we beat them in 1998, and it hasn't been... we did play them at Gala Shields, I have to say, and we were given a row by the referee for being too rough. But early doors rugby for me was... I was asked to play rugby, and I went, no way, beat it. And then the same girl asked me 6 months later, and I went, okay, I'll give that a go. And it was Sue Brodie. She was the instigator of many, many things along with Vicky Mendelsohn. And these women are the ones that created the women's rugby, and they just wouldn't be put down because we faced backlash after backlash, get in the kitchen, do this, do that. I make a nice pie and beans, but I'd play rugby first and I'll put your pies on after. Do I don't mind a wee bit of banter and funniness because I get it. We did win the European Championships in 2001 and we knew we cracked it then because there was one little lady from Melrose on the platform with her salter, waving it like that. And can you imagine if the men won the European Championships, the difference? We had one wee wifey going... We're like, are you lost, sweetie pops? Do you know? You actually meant to. It was amazing. But the 1998, we had David Soul down. We had, I think it was Jim Telford came down. And we were recognised for a couple of months. And then it was brilliant. But we won the Grand Slam. The first ever 5 Nations Grand Slam was in 1998. And we won it, beating England in the last game. 8-5. Superb.
Well done.
But do you know what? England were far superior. They had a far better setup than we ever did. But as I said earlier, we were rougher than them. I'm doing Scottish history now and all that. Now, the suppression of the Scots.
I knew we would go on to this.
You're not English, are you, Alex? But anyway, we would rather die than be taken over. And that really is it. We're so rough and spiky. And the English were quite clean and the white shirts, and we couldn't wait to drag you along the mud just to dirty your shirt.
What was the speech before the game? Do you remember?
Usually we'd watch Braveheart the night before. And it was just pick your player and make them have a rubbish day. Usually the number 10 would come off all buckled because the whole team had landed on her. And if a fight started, we called 99, so we all piled in so as no one could get sent off. And yeah, women were rough back then.
Are you sure you don't want to be playing still?
If I didn't have
I feel
a
like
knee
too close
replacement,
proximity.
a knee replacement. Oh, I would love to still be playing. Do you know what? That's one thing my brother was going to do. He was going to play till he was 60. He's still playing up there. But do you know what? Live for today and don't leave it till tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Gavin, tell me about your Grand Slam.
The one in 1990. Oh, ours was 98. Just saying that.
1990, yeah, it's amazing to... Well, it sort of came up and almost just arrived, the Grand Slam match against England, 17th of March, 1990. And I always remember we had to go down to Wales the fortnight before. And unless we won this game in Cardiff, there was no talk. England missed out the penultimate weekend of the Five Nations as it was then. So they'd played 3-1-3 and they had a whole month to wait before coming up to Edinburgh. And that was unquestionably, we only had to wait 2 weeks. And I was living and working in London at the time, and I remember all the chat was, you know, you were reading all the English papers. I was working in an office there, firm of surveyors, and everyone was coming up, that build up to the game, giving me stick, and I wasn't saying anything. I was just taking it all in, and I said, well, you just wait. And Jim Telfer and had said to us, look, we do not speak to the press. We do not say anything. And Will Carling was on, Wogan, I think, and they were all on the various media outlets. And I remember we just came together on the Wednesday night as we normally did, and there was just a calmness about the team, and realising that we'd done all we could, and we wait for the game. I remember going down in the morning of the game with Jim Telfer and Gary Armstrong and Craig Chalmers, and we just wanted to get a feel for Murrayfield. And I was doing some long kicks, just kicking to touch. And Craig, he wasn't concentrating. This ball from about 50 yards away landed on his head the morning of the game and knocked him over. And he was really upset with me. But that was probably the best thing I could have done, because it meant that he wasn't being quite as boisterous as he normally was. And anyway, I thought I'd knocked him out and he was not going to be able to play in the game. But we walked out. The best thing about that whole my memory of it was the walk. And, you know, you'll remember David Soul leading us out onto the pitch. And we said we would walk from the tunnel all the way out to the 15-yard line. And they showed lots of film there of the crowd and whatever else. But in the background, you see us all walking out onto the field. And it was just that calmness about the team. And every decision that went for Scotland was cheered that day. And I hate talking about something that happened so many years ago, but when I get asked the question, it does bring back memories. And it was a special day.
Was there a moment when you thought, we've got this? Was there a moment in the game where you thought, right, okay, I think this can happen now?
Yeah. When the final whistle went. You expect me to say that? I mean, we weren't getting carried away with ourselves. And no, it was great. And I met my wife the very next day.
Oh, well, there you go. Amazing.
She didn't know that at the time, but I knew it. Oh, the girlfriend wasn't so happy. And that is a true story as well.
So naughty.
I mean, it must have been nice because also for you, it was on the back of the Lions as well, where you've been able to sort of go to Australia. So that was, and with your brother as well, playing together for the Lions, making history. What an amazing couple of years in your rugby life.
Yeah, the Lions was amazing because we should have, or because in normal occurrence, we would have gone to South Africa in 1986, my first year of playing international rugby, and the Lions hadn't toured since 83, so 6 years was a long time between Lions tours, and it meant that only about 2 or 3 guys had toured with the Lions before, and so it was a new adventure to go to Australia, first time ever that the Lions were going to Australia for a full tour, and 2 years later, of course, Australia won the Rugby World Cup. So it was an amazing experience. Finlay Calder was the captain. It was he was just brilliant. And he knew that for us Lions to be successful, the Scots and the English had to get on well. And Finlay had the capacity and the wherewithal to understand that. And really strong characters like Brian Moore and Mike Teague, Paul Ackford and Wade Dooley, you know, they were the real thrust of the Lions forward pack, and Finlay knew this, and he got these guys on side because there'd been a bit of bad blood between Scotland and England throughout the sort of late 80s, a lot of niggly games. But that Lions tour really gave us the belief, and interestingly, the previous time in 84 that Scotland had won the Grand Slam, first time for many, many years, was on the back of a Lions tour. And what happened, I think, was you suddenly go out there and you realise that the Scots are fitter than most of the other players from the other teams, and we come back and we suddenly we're not second guessing anyone. We know what the opposition are like, and because we were so well prepared with Geach and Jim Telfer there, then we had a chance. So it was fine. But it's about time we won another Grand Slam, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, for you, Lee, obviously you were trying to balance a career in the police as well at the same time, and you're riot trained. Did you get involved in the riots, or was this? Do you see more violence in the police or rugby?
It's more dangerous in my front seat of the Timberbush touring going uptown on the A82. But no, I did do riot training because I'm a burly lass and I thought, oh, I can do that. And you pop on your helmet and you wear 6.5 stone of kit because I was the medic and I had to carry we were in the G8 riots in 2005. And oh my goodness, wow, it was quite terrifying but also exhilarating. And just you popped on your kit and they did 24-hour shifts and they said, oh, we'll pay you extra for every 12 hours you work. Then, of course, we went, yeah, that's brilliant. So once we got there and we got our paycheck, there was no extra money. We can't pay more than 24 hours a day. The folk that did 12-hour shifts got an extra 4 hours pay and we didn't. But the riots in the public order, so we do drug raids, arrest murderers, break through doors and you think there's 5 people inside and there's 20 and you go, oh, yippee! And that's shocking. I've only ever used my spray once and I've only ever used my baton once in 24 years because I think an intimidating stare and a challenge with your eyes and going then works a treat. So I've enjoyed the police, but I've also been classed as a social worker because I actually care about people. I've been saved by the people I've tried to arrest years before and they go, leave her. She's all right, her. As they're trying to tip my car over in Pennywell Gardens. If you've ever been to Edinburgh, there's a few rough places. They're toe-to-toe with you. I say, well, go for it then. You have to do what you're going to do. I says, but if I win this fight, I'm still a girl and your friends are going to tease you for the rest of your life. And then they went, and then they wouldn't fight me. It's like... It's superb. And this guy was about to tear my head off. And I used to be more boyish than I look now with short hair. And I went, stay back. And I had my spray and I spoke really highly because I get all excited and sound like Beaker for the Muppets. And he went, are you a girl? I went, yes. He says, oh, I don't fight girls. And I went, I was in Arboretum Road in Edinburgh and I hadn't seen the street sign and I thought I'm going to get bashed in here. And I didn't because he didn't hit girls. But anyway, in the police, it's quite, I didn't get in. When I was 18, they said I'd failed my test, but I'm a gay lady, just putting that out there. And they didn't have anyone that was gay in the police when I was 18. And then when I went back, when I was 32, I got in the police because they wanted gay ladies. And they said, oh, we're a very diverse employer. We have 7 gay people. 7 gay people.
Was it on the form?
Yeah, no, it was in the training. 17,000 people. And said, we have 7 gay people. And I stood up and says, well, you better make it 8. And no, I seriously did. And they went, ooh. And the way the whole world has evolved, and we're talking 26 years, and I'm married with 2 children, folk are like that, oh, horrified, how did that work? Wait, then I'll explain it all for you. And you're like, this isn't quite the podcast I expected. But in a world of, it was different. You had to do certain things as a lady back then, secretarial, food nutrition. You couldn't do woodwork, couldn't do metal work. You weren't allowed to play rugby. You had to play hockey. You had to. And then they said, will you play rugby? Yes, I will. And not interested really. My dad played. My brother played. Everyone played. I just played out the back and got a pie at the end of it. Wasn't interested because I swam. But I'm so delighted that the opportunity came for me because there was no opportunity for everyone who went behind. And I don't care that I've spent money and I can't walk properly anymore and my body's buckled. I smile every time I go, oh, because I think back to how I got those aches and pains. I've got scars on my hand.
And how the other
That's
person
where the
came
Welsh
off,
team
presumably.
stamped on my hand. And the other girls, my mum said, oh, be careful out there. And I says, well, think of the other mums when I'm me running at their daughter. And they went, okay.
You were pregnant during your playing career though, weren't you?
I did. I played a game with Jamie in my tummy. I didn't mean to. But I got promoted in the police in October and I found out I was pregnant the week after. So I hid it in the police for 3.5 months until just after Christmas, someone was about to throw me down the stairs. And I went, I think it's time to tell them I'm pregnant. 3.5 months. I did public order with the football as well because I didn't want to say, right, thanks for the promotion, but I'm now pregnant. Do you know, I just wanted to say, no, I'll show you I can do the job first. then I'm pregnant. And then I says, I'll be back in 3 months. But I fell deeply in love with my little baby. And my wife had a baby 3 months later. So it was double baby for a year. And you're like, that's horrific. 2 babies, 3 months apart. And folks say, oh, did you have them both? No, I kept one inside. And then you have to explain it because they were in the double buggy with my friend pushing them up the stairs, and the ladies go, "Coochie coo, are they twins?" And my loudmouth child went, "No, we're not twins. We're brothers from another mother." And he'd explain at 2.5 years old to the person that's going coochie and wishing they'd never asked that question. I'm so sorry, Alex.
No,
but
this is great. This is educational.
Well, it is educational because I didn't have a child till I was 42. Because back when I was 22, you couldn't walk up the street and be gay without being hurt. So I can't hide that I'm gay. So
were you offended about the? Because we mentioned misgendering and all this sort of. Was you
never
offended by that?
Because I was a tall, short-haired, strong lassie. Never offended by the mistake. Offended by the abuse that came after it. You know, and it's like, don't be rude. You don't need to be rude. You have misgendered me, not bothered because I look like a boy, I've got short hair. And I hated going to the ladies' toilets because I didn't want to be embarrassed. Yeah. Because people, but then if they were rude after it, prove it, meh. It's like, absolutely not. No. Do you know, and it's shaped my life, but I'm now 57, soon to be 58, and folk will still walk out of the toilet when I'm standing there at the sink. And I've got a ponytail. And and they can see. And it's like,
people need to watch the video of this as well as just listening. Is
it never going to stop? And it makes me sad a wee bit. And my son's got long hair and he gets it too, but he's not bothered. And I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered now. Unless you're rude. Don't be rude. It's as simple as that. Don't be rude. You don't know who you're speaking to and you don't know what sort of day they've had. Just be kind. Be kind to people.
I don't exactly know how I switch this back to like the Lions.
Go back to the Lions. Go back. You can't.
This episode has been brought to you by Vodafone's clubs.connected programme in partnership with Scottish Rugby. Clubs.connected is offering Scottish Rugby clubs free of charge connectivity for 12 months. Savings and offers on mobile and broadband for your club members and sponsors, and the chance to win experiences, stash and match tickets. To find out more, visit scottishrugby.org. Going back to like sort of, we were talking about the Lions earlier on, and like the 93 was particularly sort of poignant, I think, also because of the captaincy was a big issue, wasn't it? You know, we're talking about Will Carling now, and like when I think he might have thought he was going to get it, and instead it obviously didn't. How did you feel about being on the other side of that with this Lions team?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I think we had gone down to Twickenham, I think, for a chance of a Triple Crown, and we came off second best, and then England were going off to Ireland. And I think if England had won that game, then Will would have been the captain because they would have won the Triple Crown. And instead, obviously, Ireland managed to win that game, which was to my advantage. The fact also that I'd been in New Zealand for 2 or 3 previous occasions. We'd gone out there with Scotland in 1990, the 87 World Cup there. We'd played in New Zealand, and I'd stayed on after the World Cup and played with 4 of the World Cup winning All Blacks for a season, and that was great. So I was kind of well known in New Zealand. People knew me, and you know, I was sort of guaranteed, I guess, of my place in the team. And so, you know, there was no difficulty as far as I was concerned. I was very happy, obviously, to be named Lions captain, and it was a massive, massive honour. Will and I got on okay on tour, and you know, he rallied towards the end and captained the midweek side and did pretty well. I think he had a tough start in that tour, and it was tough for him not being probably centre of attention the whole time, but. Listen, we get on fine, and you know, I'm happy that I was the captain of the Lions. Obviously, it's funny, you know, you look back on a career and you just want to do your best. You've got a moment in time, and you want to make the most of it, and you never get a second chance in life, so make the most of it. And it's a message that I would say to everybody, and you know, for young rugby players and whatever, just grab it. If you want it, grab it with both hands. Make the most of the opportunities that come your way, and have no regrets. And I've got one or two regrets. I mean, did I ever mention some idiot missing a kick in front of? But it is. You've got to just try your hardest, train your hardest, try your hardest, and have no regrets. And that's the way I live my life.
And it's obviously very special, in particular because Scott was there for so much of the journey as well. Was he always your brother, or was he always like a teammate? How did you? Was it like Scott's outside, or was it?
No, I think we were more teammates than brothers. We're probably more brothers now than we are teammates. And but yeah, back then we'd sort of won our first cap together against France in 1986. 8 years later, same fixture, we arrived on winning 50 caps together. And it was the only time we lost to France at Murrayfield. And we made up for it a year later by winning in France, but Scott wasn't there. He got dropped. So I've got that over at Scott. Scott, have you ever won in Paris? And he says, have you ever won the Melrose Sevens? And I said, no, okay then. So, we keep having a ding-dong against each other, but, that's healthy rivalry. And talking about the Lions, we've got the Women's Lions going to New Zealand next year, which will be amazing, and it will be amazing. And I'm looking forward to seeing many Scots ladies that are on there and on the team, and I think it's going to be an amazing adventure for everyone that goes on the very first Women's Lions tour to New Zealand. It's going to be extraordinary.
Yeah, it's interesting the timing of it, because there's been a bit of debate over whether it's a bit too early for it, etc. But generally, it's going to, especially it's been interesting to see certain individuals within the Scottish side. I think the Scotland have come on so far, like incredible, like the way they've actually progressed as well. So actually, if you'd had this conversation a couple of years ago, we might have thought it's going to be a struggle. But now it feels like there's real
with one or two. But now
exactly, and there's a couple of the Irish as well kicking in there as well. So I think it's actually, when it comes around, there's going to be a fairly even spread.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to play the classic Lionesses. You had to be over 30 and have 10 caps for your country. And we would go there and have a party for a whole week and be the curtain raiser for the men's teams, who were the classic Lions. They were the sort of barbarians through in Bermuda. So we got to go to Bermuda 4 years in a row. And we had like Just van der Vestes and Martin Johnson, Kenny Logan, and they were all on our plane. Well, obviously not the ones from like Just was on a different plane and other people. But then we were the curtain raiser, and Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones, who lived there, said, "Can we get a picture with you guys?" And I went, "Yeah, I think we'll let them." Okay. And Donna Kennedy, straight there beside Catherine Zeta-Jones, and I was elbowed out to the side. So there was a classic Lionesses, but it was old ladies playing rugby and being a curtain raiser for the gents. But we played a great game before them, and then watching them play after, it was just yet again another honour. It was sponsored, so we didn't pay quite as much. So it was absolutely brilliant times. But this is the real Lionesses that's coming. And I do think Scotland, with the girls that are playing now, some of them are magnificent. I have to say, some of them are real trailblazing, brilliant sportswomen. A ballerina that now scores tries on the wing. Phenomenal. I think
just on the back of that, the fact that the Women's Six Nations is about to kick off this weekend, and it's great that they have their own place in the rugby calendar, isn't it? And they're getting 75,000 people.
Incredible.
England versus Ireland at Twickenham, and then Scotland have got over sort of 28,000 for a game at Murrayfield against England women. So I mean, I think that there's a real, for the girls, for the women, that they've got this incentive of the Lions in 18 months' time, another Six Nations next year, and then they're off to New Zealand. I think it's fantastic. Women's sport has come on so much, and women's rugby has come on so much over the last few years, and the Lions is just going to catapult them into another sort of stratosphere in many respects.
And because you did like 3 World Cups? 4?
I did 3, and I'd done the 60 trial for the 4th World Cup, and I got dropped with 2 other uncapped players, and I think there was a bit of politicalness about it. But if I hadn't been dropped, if I was raging for a good 20 years. In fact, I'm still raging now. But had I not been dropped for that rugby, I wouldn't have had my 2 children. So I'm a great believer in sliding doors. What's for you won't go by you. If I hadn't been put out the rugby at that time, I would have been too old to have my children. So I'm all right with it now. I'm good. And if something bad might have happened to me, something horrible was going to happen injury-wise, there's a reason why I didn't go. So it's all put to bed now to just bring up every opportunity I can.
You say this. There's lots of things here that haven't been put to bed. She seems to rage against the fixture secretary because she points out in here that if there had been more than 2 fixtures a year, she'd have won 120 caps, not 77.
Well, do you know, in the nicest possible way, I did play Scotland Select for 2 years and then played 14 seasons for Scotland. At the beginning, there was a cap a year, then 2, then 3, and now there's 10 caps a year. So if you look at longevity, but then again, if I'd played 14 caps a year, I might have got squudged on the 14th cap that year, not played ever again. So as again, sliding doors. I mean, this young lady here is an ex-gladiator. She played against us and we snapped her leg. So I laid her head upon my leg for half an hour, I think, as she was screaming her wee heart out. Poor thing. So that's Battle Axe, the gladiator there. And we hurt her. It wasn't me. I was a bit of a medic-y type person, so I held on
let's
to her.
hope she's forgotten it, because she has just turned up and you didn't know she was going to be here.
No, she gave me a big cuddle. She has my little lion with a bandaged
She didn't see
paw
what she put
that
on your
I took
back.
her in the hospital. It wasn't me. I cuddled her. It was Sonia. Sonia Kill hurt your leg. She's a police officer. Rough her.
But we talked about how sort of the women's game still progressed, but you know the World Cups that you played in, Gavin, as well. There was obviously a big sea change in those, because obviously when there was the 87 was a bit of a random one, but then 91 and 95, did you feel they changed? Was there one that stood out for you?
Oh, South
aside
Africa,
from you, Ivory Coast, I think is one game maybe.
Well, they weren't the best rugby side I ever played
How many points
against.
did you score against Ivory Coast?
Only 44. That record was a world record at the time, and it stood for, I think, 2 hours. Or sorry, it might have stood for 24 hours, and I was it was beaten by a chap, Simon Culhane, playing for the All Blacks against, I can't remember who they were playing, but he kicked a touchline conversion in the 5th minute of injury time to score 45 points. How do you remember stuff like that? It doesn't really matter.
Because you've not let it go either.
So
your record go, yeah.
But World Cups were amazing. South Africa was extraordinary, and Dan and I were there for the final when Nelson Mandela came out wearing the number 6 of Francois Pienaar in his Springbok shirt, and the crowd went absolutely nuts. So that was a moment in time. That was a moment of history, not sporting history, but history. That will go down in history, Nelson Mandela uniting South Africa in the post-apartheid years, and just having the knowledge, the confidence, the wherewithal to realise that if he could get the whites on board, then he's got a chance of uniting South Africa. And it was an extraordinary moment being in that stadium and the whole crowd shouting, "Nelson, Nelson, Nelson." And the most incredible thing that's ever happened to me, Dan and I were at a state banquet that the Queen gave for Nelson Mandela 2 or 3 years later. And there was maybe 500 people there at this state banquet, and Dan was on one massive long table. I was on another long table, and we met up after the dinner. We're having a coffee, and you get a tap on your shoulder from a member of the royal household saying, the Queen and President Mandela would like to take coffee with you. And you go, what? And we queued up waiting, and we got 5 minutes with the Queen and President Mandela. The most extraordinary thing that's ever happened to the pair of us. We came out of there having had our 5 minutes with him and thought, wow, that was a special time. And, 30 years on, you still remember it as though it was yesterday. So I feel very honoured and privileged for some of the opportunities, some of the things that have happened in our life. And that was a special one.
Was it because you are like one of the most famous Scottish rugby players of all time? I think if anyone was to name someone who doesn't even know rugby, was to name a Scottish rugby player, your name would probably be top of that list. Of all the things you've done, what is your greatest achievement? Was there ever a time that everyone knowing who you were was a problem? Because you're not exactly Will Carling in terms of some of the activities, but nonetheless, there must have been a publicity.
No, not really. I mean, I think the one thing that us Scots, we keep our feet pretty much on the ground, and you know, like nothing. It's interesting. Nothing over the last 30 years, when you retire, can influence the way that you were as a rugby player. Right? That you cannot improve as a rugby player once you've retired. You can't win anything else. So this is what I always say to young people, that you have this moment in time, this period in time. Go and be the best person that you can be, the best player that you can be. And then, you know, I've been pretty lucky that over the last 30 years, people come up to you and say nice things, apart from missing a kick in front of the post. Have I mentioned that, by the way? You know, and so in a funny sort of way, it keeps you grounded, because my career was not in any way perfect, but I tried to be the best player I could be, and we had a bit of success, but there was a bit of failure there as well. And you remember more about the things that didn't go your way than the things that did go your way, and that keeps you grounded, and it just keeps you honest, and it's no bad thing, because you never get carried away.
But you look back on those years, when you do retire, what are the moments that come to the fore on both sides of that coin?
Well, I mean, World Cups were special. I mean, playing in New Zealand, we went out in economy class, flying all the way with the Irish team and the English team, and it was extraordinary. It was it was the English team weren't there. It was the Welsh team and the Irish team, and we were back of, you know, 3 squads of players, so 120 plus players in the back of a 747. Can you imagine how smelly it was when we arrived? And you know, we arrived, and it was amazing that I remember we're coming into land in Auckland, and there was a rainstorm, and we had to take off, and we landed. We were circling Auckland, and we couldn't land because of this rainstorm. So we flew down to Christchurch, which was the only other airport in the whole of New Zealand that could land a jumbo, but it wasn't an international airport then. So we refueled in Christchurch Airport, another 3 hours back to Auckland, and we landed about 5 hours after we should have done. So we were on the go for about 42 hours. You imagine the state of the back of that plane and just the desperation. And we had a guy called Jim Telfer, of course. We went training that day when we arrived, and he says, right, get your boots on, we're going for a training session. We'd been on the go for about a day and a half. The most mad thing that we could ever have done. And when we arrived back in the hotel, just before we left, I remember saying, the Irish manager, and I'm going to do an Irish accent now so you'll understand, right? And he says, okay, lads, it's been a terrible journey. I want you to go upstairs and dump your bags, and we're meeting down in the bar in half an hour. And at the very same time as those words were mentioned to the Irish lads, we had Jim Telfer. Right, lads, it's been a terrible journey. Go upstairs, put your bags on, change your kit, and we're going training. And we came back 2.5 hours later, and the Irish party was in full swing. And I've never wanted to be an Irish person so much in my life at that stage. You know, that was just, what an amazing experience. You know, to go from there and then 8 years later go off to South Africa, flying in business class for the third World Cup, and coming back then, and just the contrast then. And now modern day international rugby players fly everywhere business class. That's the way it is.
Camper vans? Didn't you go into
Now,
your
in the
first
nicest
World Cup?
possible way, he's moaning about being in an economy at the back of a 747. We were in the back of a Luton van. No seats, no seat belts, to go and play England down in London.
You cannot be serious.
100%. And people go on about, oh, it was terrible back then. Oh my goodness, we got a rowing boat to get to Spain, to get to our World Cup. And there was 23 of us like rowing away to get there, and you're there luxuriating at the back of your 747, and we're sharing a roll between the 20.
Good for team bonding, isn't
It
it?
was amazing. 15 in a bed. We went to see. It was 15 in a tent. We went to the World Cup in 1991 because Scotland didn't have a team then until 93. And we went down with 2 tents, a big one and a wee one, and it was really bad weather, so our big one blew away. So there was 15 of us in I think it was a 4-man tent, and it was just horrific. It was horrific. But we actually cheered on America against England.
You didn't.
We did. USA. And then USA won. So that's shocking. It was us. We made them win. I'm so sorry.
There's so many stories from that World Cup, the 91 we're talking about. Or
Yeah, 91. Yeah, and it was just back in the day. And when the Russians came over to the 94 World Cup, that they'd cancelled because it was Sue Brodie, Sandra Colomita Martina. They did They did a play 2 years ago to say the trouble that they had because it was getting cancelled in Holland. And these women, there was about 4 or 5 in Fee Glasgow, your Vicky Mendelssohns, they did everything and got the teams together and made this thing happen in 1994. And it wasn't, in Scotland, in Edinburgh. And it was just an amazing feat by these ladies because every door they went to, it was shut. Oh, we can't do this. We can't allow this. And I hadn't realised it till I watched the play how much anti this thing was for these ladies. And my God, you didn't mess with Sue Brodie, by the way. She's the one that asked me to play rugby 6 months later. She gave me the stare and I said, yeah, because I'm terrifying, but she's more terrifying.
But that's also incredible how far that came. 20 years. If you think about the last World Cup, and that's only 20 years before that, less than 20 years before that as well. That's incredible.
Well, it was just amazing. We were lucky to be in 3. I mean, in Amsterdam, we weren't allowed in the foyer because they're all smoking weed and, the passive smoking of weed. So we had to sit in our rooms like that, eating. And we ate too much. We didn't train enough, so we all got a bit chubby. And then in the next World Cup in 2002 in Spain, we trained so much that we were almost tired going on the pitch. So it's like there's a balance to be had. But everything's been phenomenal. I've just had so much fun being able to play rugby. And yeah, I'm glad I was I was asked to play rugby and I was in the Scotland select setup within 3 weeks. I mean, that's how bad the women's setup was then. Oh, you're big, you can play. And then the skill came afterwards. Selection first, skill later. And it maybe isn't that level of skill either. I was a good swimmer, for 12 years. I could swim better than I could play rugby, but I got more from rugby. Just right place, right time, and great memories. And I wouldn't change any, even the Luton van, because it was hilarious.
When was your last Scottish cap? What year?
1995, and the game went professional 6 months later. So, no, I was an amateur rugby player.
Would you both have liked to have been professional? Would you have liked to have, because you were a surveyor?
No, I wouldn't. It was never, I never got into rugby to earn money out of it. I think the experiences, the memories, the opportunities that rugby has given me, you'd have to be a wealthy person to, if you had to pay for those opportunities and experiences, I'd have had to have been a very wealthy person. And I'm not, so I'm very thankful for rugby and those opportunities that they've given me.
Did you get offered a contract at the end? Because there was a Kerry Packer circus that was going around. They were saying, right, we're going to sign up all these players and you're going to go and play in Boston. Did you get offered a contract around that?
I was in charge of getting the Scotland team, yes.
How did that work out?
Well, if the thing had gone ahead, we would have done that, but it never happened. So, and professional rugby started on the back of that.
Yeah, and all the better for it. Lee, would you have liked to be a pro?
Rugby player, I think we're talking about here.
But no, I think being a pro for a woman is still not the same as being a pro for a chap. You couldn't survive with... I liked all the jobs I've done. I quite liked being an amateur player and working and playing, unless it was going to be enough for me to live off of that, which isn't quite there yet. So I'm happy.
Big strides,
I'm happy. And he goes on about all the things he got from his rugby and everything. I've got memories, but that's marvellous. But you have but when it comes to recognition, how many folk know who I am? Oh, I love you all. Do you know I write books? Do you like reading books?
Right. So this is the next question. So we're gonna give you so Lee, obviously we know she's a writer, but she's a proper writer as well. 4 books.
4 books, yeah.
4 books. The title of one, Porcelain Flesh of Innocence. So I'll let you explain that one. Tell me about your books. It said a little bit naughty.
Well, there's two characters. Oh, there's two characters. Well, it's because I can't hear myself in the wee microphone. Sorry.
We'll add that
but
into the comments.
I do write books. They're very violent and they're a bit saucy. So they're definitely adult books. You cannot read them until you're at least 35. So how old are you two? Nope, not allowed. Right, so...
Do you ever weave rugby into any of these books?
No, how boring.
I don't think a rugby book written by you would ever be boring.
That's more policey. And yeah, I like to bring humour into everything because I think life's a wee bit too serious sometimes and it's very, very short, too short. Let's not be serious. Let's be kind. Let's think back to everything you've had and what you've... I mean, I'm delighted. Gavin is so well known that I bumped into him at the beach and went, "Hi, Gavin." And he must have thought, God, this rugby has really brought this forward. Look, here she is again. Hi. I used to swim with Scott's wife, and we the worlds just intertwine. And you meet people just by coming through a door. Oh, hiya. And you've not seen someone for 25 years. And that's what rugby brings.
You played until you're 50, didn't you?
3 weeks before I was 50. It was always Wanderers versus Royal High. Us, them. And in the last game, Royal High beat Wandies. And I went, get out, yeah. And I know that's terrible because when we started Accies, we won everything. It was a double header. We won the league, we won the cup, League Cup. We were great. And then along came Heriot Watt, who turned into Wanderers, Edinburgh Wanderers. Then it was us, them. And they started to win more than us. And it really was us and them for a long time. And then Watsonians came along. Folk like Gavin's lot came along and they were quite good. And then I think it was Hillhead, Jordan Hill from here. And then it was the four. And other people started to win. And it just wasn't quite as easy after that. And then I left and said, oh, it's too hard now. And then off I went to write books and sit on my couch and do other things. But hey ho.
Which kind of helping brings back to this sort of community where we are now as well. And like, Gavin, you obviously stayed involved with community rugby through Adam, presumably. Were you coaching him as a mini? And tell me about that journey.
Listen, I've done a lot of gone to mini and midi rugby festivals all over the country, and not only in Scotland but the length and breadth of the UK as well. So I think rugby as a sport for young boys and girls to get involved in something and to understand about teamwork and friendship and helping one another. It is the best sport. And, just seeing these little kids that are just amazing, and they go out there and they belie their size and they're so into it and aggressive and just so enjoying it. And I think rugby, honestly, it has fantastic values with that. I've advocated for many, many years that we should play rugby in Scotland in the summer months. I think, you see, I've been hearing about the pitch here at Hamilton. It's been under water for a large part of the winter time, and only now it's sort of escaping that. But just to see kids of all shapes and sizes getting out there and smashing into a tackle bag and just having fun, that's what it's all about. A tiny percentage of these people will go on and play rugby at the highest level. But for all the others that are playing, it's got to be about fun. It's got to be about the community spirit. It's got to be about the clubs like Hamilton here that just are part of the community. And that's what it's all about. And just giving folks a nice, friendly, homely place to come to, safe environment as well to come to. And that's genuinely what it is all about. And you know what? If someone in years to come plays for Scotland women's team or for Scotland men's team or another team international side and say, I start my rugby here at Hamilton, that would be fantastic. Have Hamilton had any international players that started here? You have. Congratulations, sir.
Well done.
Yeah.
The team you would think of, I wasn't a Scottish internationalist.
Go on.
I played for the Dutch national team.
There you are. Yeah, fantastic. So that's what I've talked about. And, that is absolutely brilliant. So more power to your elbow. Round of applause here for our... Yeah, well done.
What about you, Lee? Have you been involved, your children got involved? Or
Sadly, I have the most unsporty children ever. My wife's a racket sports person, and I'm swimming, and I did play football, and I played rugby.
I like you bracket them all at racket sports.
Yeah, we played squash 9 times, and she won 8. Well, I only said you can't hit it off the back wall, and I won the 9th game, only because I sort of had that handicap thing. I worked 3 weekends out of 5 as a police officer, and then I had my 2 children. So if I had gone to do something with someone else's children on my weekends off, I just would have been the most unpopular person. And then because of my knee, I wasn't really able with a full knee replacement, and it was agony. Once I've run, I did a 5k shuffle a week in 3 days. If there's a shuffle jog, I call it, because it wasn't walking. It was what you would get fined for if you were in a walking race. But I did 5k and I didn't stop. I was purple. I hadn't done anything for 6 years before my diagnosis of I need a new knee. And just, I wished I'd got more involved. I was offered the coaching, but I couldn't commit because of the police. I was 24/7. I was on the front line, a sergeant up at Gayfield, Drylaw, all the places in Edinburgh, if you've ever been there. Busy places. And you come back, and just even to look after the children, you'd get to bed at 9:30, you'd be collecting the children at 2:45. So you can just imagine how much of that time sleeping before you then have to make the tea, go and do this, do that, and then go back to your work. So there was a lot less sleep, and I'm so sorry. I wish I could give back more. And anyone asks me to do anything, I will always come and do it. Always, always, always.
I think you're going to get lots of invites when people listen to this. Your story is incredible. There's so much to it. And I think anyone who's been listening or is listening now or watching, they hear this story, they're going to send so many stories away from you. I mean, we do know a lot of Gav stories, it's true, but your stories are incredible. And I think there's so many anecdotes we probably all take and repeat. So you really need to give yourself a lot of credit, because I think you've had an incredible career, and what an amazingly entertaining life you've led as well.
I'm just wired to the moon.
That's everything. And we are actually here for Vodafone's partnership with Scottish Rugby, which is clubs.connected, which is bringing a year's free connectivity to all Scottish clubs. So people can go online at Scottish Rugby and search clubs.connected. And there's also prizes. There's lots of other great opportunities like this roadshow. And this has been a great club to be at. We've been here for a couple of days, but we've been working with the Hamilton guys for a few months now. And they really couldn't have done more to help us. And what is lovely is there's some of these kids we've seen running in and out all the way around and in a safe space, and that's what rugby's kind of got that I don't think other sports do have. It sometimes, you've got this rugby snobbery, but when you see these clubs and these clubhouses that are the centre of the community, it's incredible. It is unique, isn't it?
No question. And I don't know, like rugby snobbery, I don't know where that would come from. I think rugby is the most unsnobbery sport that there is, and it's all inclusive and whatever. So, yeah, it's brilliant to come around and visit clubs like this. And I was just mentioning earlier, I don't know if any of you remember, there was in Scot Squad, and we were doing some kicking here with the Chief outside, and I was just looking at that on my mobile phone, so it was absolutely hilarious. I was actually at school with the Chief, and he was as useless as kicking then as he is on the Scot Squad. So just happy times, happy memories. And, you know, you see an awful lot of fantastic people that are involved in clubs like Hamilton here, and, you know, they do a brilliant job in the community. So more power to your elbow. Keep up the great work, and we wish you all success moving forward.
I have to say, I was the kicker, number 4 for Edinburgh Accies, and I kicked 1 or 2 and missed for Scotland, sadly, because Paula Chalmers was kicking about and she was really good, so we'll let her off. But Gavin came, because he was one of the guys that was up for the girls to get on, along with Peter Wright. He's still a friend of mine online. Gavin taught me how to kick, and he says it's irrelevant which side of the pitch or where it is on the pitch. You aim for this little foot square, straight line, and you kick it. And I went, all right. And do you know what? Straight line, it didn't matter where you were standing. I was aiming for a little 1 foot box, straight line from where I was kicking, be it the side, be it straight in front. I never missed too many in front. But I did miss 1 or 2 for the sideline, but not many. Because of that, I was like, I am kicking it this line, all because of you, Gavin. You're welcome. Thank you very much for even caring about the women, because there's a few that would go, women playing rugby. He wasn't one of them. Neither was Peter Wright, and neither were many of the other guys that came along. And just, you know, if anyone's going to change women's rugby, It's the guys. And that folk go, hey, what are you talking about? No, absolutely. If men help us and help the women just to have an equal footing, or even a footing just below you, it doesn't matter. Help us. Men need to help the women get on. And then the women will then help themselves. Give us a platform. And as you can see now, when you watch them later on, hopefully they'll trounce Wales.
Isn't that? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, guys. Thank you very much, Gavin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lee. And thank you very much, Hamilton. Thank you very much, guys. It's been Rugby Lives, Vodafone. Thank you.